And I looked at her and I felt this is the one. So it was not easy approaching the lady, so I sent a church elder to ask her if I can marry her. Because I was not used to seducing girls, so I didn't have very good language. And I was a little bit a shy boy. But somehow it worked. So we are helping these children, 40 of them in high school as we speak, and 11 of them are joining university. Yeah, you know, because you serve God of excellence, you give an opportunity, just do something cool.
Yeah, I think I love that.
The silver and gold belongs to him.
Welcome to DaveCha Moments, and today is a special day. We are gathered here so that we can show you a moment of inspiration, a moment of encouragement, a moment of just a lifting and learning from one another. We have a special edition today as we talk to one of the special people in my life. I have known him for some time. When I was younger, I was in high school, yes, but the wife, we had known each other from primary school. I'm talking about none other than Apostle Edward Owino. He is the director of New Hope Education Center, and he has so many other projects that he's doing so that he can uplift the society and he can also preach the gospel of Christ. When you hear his story, he comes from a humble background. Sometimes he told me that the landlord came one time and removed the door. Na yeye ameoa na kuna watoto. Ikachukuliwa ikaenda. So many things have happened, but today things are never the same again. I am inspired by him. He has raised a lot of people. He has mentored a lot of people. He has supported a lot of people, including businesses, businesswomen, businessmen. And please join me as we learn and we hear from Apostle, Bishop, Pastor, Philanthropist, Educationist, Edward Owino. I know him because I know also the wife. To your surprise, the wife was the one who laid her hands on me when I was getting born again in 1996 when I was in class 6. Somewhere down there at Ulumba, Ugenya, huko ndani. That's where I got born again. So a special family for me and a special moment for me because some of these things have been part of the projects happening here. Some 1, 2, 3 work here. I've been involved in them. So I know what I'm talking about. A true story. Please join me as we learn together and as we learn from one another. As we get inspired. So, karibu sana, karibu sana, karibu sana. Leo nasikia vizuri niko kwa ofisi yenye na kiti inaenda hivi. This is a DaveCha moment. Karibu sana. Welcome.
Yes, my name is Edward Owino. I was born in 1973 and I was born in the village, the former Shire district, today is a county. My father was David Owino and Mary Owino. And we happened to be so many. We were 11 kids in a one family's house, the third born. And so that's where we began. My father was accountant by profession, but somehow he didn't live a good life because he got into drunkenness and therefore he couldn't keep his job. And now with that big family, with a father who can keep a job, life wasn't so easy. So coming to my education, I joined primary school in a school by the name Ruma Primary School in Standard 1. And those days, there's no preschool, so you'd go to school, they'd put like this. So I remember the first time I went, my hand could not attend to this, so I was told to go back home. So I joined, and I schooled there. Later on, My parents came to Nairobi. They stayed in Kibera slums, and life wasn't so easy. Then later on, we relocated back to the village, and I joined class 7 again in Ruma. Then again, I did class 7, and somehow we were a little bit naughty boys, so I was suspended from school after doing class 7, because after we did our mock, we were told to go back to school to continue learning, but we felt now we are big boys. So I got suspended. So in class 8, I had to go to another school. That is the school we call Rakombe Primary School. That was in 1986 when I did KCP, and I did well, and I got a very good school, Sawagongo High School, where I joined. And of course, I joined second term because there was no money, as I told you, the state of my father. And it was a struggle being in school, but God being God, I went through up to 1990. After 1990, I went to Mombasa because my uncle called me that he could take me to college because I was a bright young man, but due to lack, I couldn't do things that the way I needed to do. So now I'm in Mombasa, and I'm there. I was to join college, but somehow things didn't work, and so I was there, really not doing much. In a sense, I got depressed, and I was feeling there was no worth, life was not worth living. So I remember 1991, my hopes were going down, and things were getting darker and darker, despite that we stayed in, my uncle was a well-to-do man. We got food, we got everything, we got money, we could run around. But still, I felt something was amiss. And so I was sort of depressed. I would go to the doctor, and the doctor would not understand what's happening with me. Then later on, the same year, my cousin was not even born again, told me, why don't you get saved? And it somehow offended me. I felt so bad. I could not sleep the whole night, because why does somebody tell me to get saved? And so, but the thought, the word of being saved began sinking to me. And by then I'd kept some poison because I wanted to commit suicide, because life was not worth living. So my poison was there even by the time I was being told to get saved. I'd kept them somewhere because we lived in a big compound, so I'd hidden them somewhere within the home. Then somehow, God being God, this cousin of mine, we just used to go to Catholic church and just going. Then after that, just to show people we went to church, but really we're not getting anything. Then he took me to Mombasa Pentecostal church. God saved himself. That first week I didn't get saved. Then he told me, it's so good, you feel so good. So the following Sunday, he still took me there, so I gave my life to Christ. And therefore my journey began, 1991, that was in August. And so I stayed in Mombasa after getting saved. My mind was I became sober, I was happier. Hopes were coming back again. I was seeing that in Christ there's something good. And therefore, I traveled back to my home again. That was, I think, early 1992. I remember it was electioneering period. So I went home. While at home, a sense of serving God began working in me. I would feel like I need to be in church. So I joined a pastor by the name Vitalis, that the Church of Voice of Salvation and Healing Church, and I was just there carrying pastor's Bible. We'd walk here and there. And that life, I would go to do some farming. I was a farmer. I was doing some farming just to get some money. Then in the evening, we'd go to church and just minister, do visitation and all that. Then in 1993, my elder brother pastor was called John Opondo, and one of my auntie's daughter came for burial. And somehow I heard her say that her mother was being tormented by demons at home, and they'd built a big house for her. So while I was seated outside and they were discussing, then I felt like, can you run away from demons? Then I gathered some courage and I approached my auntie's daughter. She looked, people from Nairobi. She looked somebody with money, and I was just a village boy there, walking barefooted. But I gathered courage and I told her that I've heard what you have said, but Jesus can save your mama. And she was excited to hear that. Then she told me, you mean my uncle's son that my mother can get well and stay in that same house where demons seem to be living? I told her yes. Then she told me, let me come back to Nairobi. You talk to your pastor, if you can go there, organize. Then if that God would save my mama, then I will also embrace that God. So I went to my pastor. We began praying and fasting, organized for the meeting. And so the D-Day came. We went to where this mother stays, somewhere deep in Uyoma. I remember we walked almost 5 kilometers. And of course we went overnight to do overnight ministry. And God worked. So the Lord worked. Then the mama got saved, she got healed, the demons were no more. And as she had promised before that if that God would save her mother and deliver her home, then she would want us to bring that God to her. So she sent money, ticket for us to come all the way from Soweto to Nairobi, me and my pastor. And therefore that's how I came to Nairobi. She got saved. And I began staying in Nairobi in the city. My brother was here in Kayole. So that's how I came to the city after then. So in the city, I joined the church by the name Reconciliation Church under Pastor Duby. Then later on, there's kind of a church difference. So we went with this, the assistant pastor, who is now Bishop Newton Wanjala. And so I was serving there as a youth chairperson. That was now from 93, 94, 95. Then I began doing some business just to earn a living. Like I would buy fish from Kikomba, would come and fry them. And life was good. And I liked what I was doing. I felt like I would spread it and make it a big business. And so I became so passionate about it, but somehow along the way things were not working well. And I used to attend several cases where one day the Lord spoke to me that you are trying to do business, but there's something else that I want you to do. So when the Lord spoke like that, I began praying that God, if there's something else that you want me to do, I'm willing to do it. And so I got a vision of me working somewhere, and kind of a structure that the pastor sent somebody to call me. It was in a dream, but it became a reality that one morning when I was praying, somebody came and knocked my door and said, Pastor said you go to Embakasi. And therefore when I went to Embakasi, I was taken to that company. Of course I didn't get the opportunity the first time I went, but I went like 3 times and I got the job. I began working there. That was now 1996. The same year, 1996, I got a fiancé. They came to Nairobi to do mission, and I looked at her and I felt this is the one. So it was not easy approaching the lady, so I sent a church elder to ask her if I can marry her. because I was not used to seducing girls, so I didn't have very good language. And I was a little bit a shy boy. But somehow it worked. And so and at the same time, now my fiancée was Helen, joined Machakos Teachers College by then. Then we began working on the process. Then come April 1997, we wedded on the 5th of April. And there we were. Then I was still working at ASP. But when I come to my calling, while I was at the church there, we used to have some members in Soweto. Then we would do church visitation, and I began building a burden for Soweto. I felt like I love these people. Despite of poverty, I love to come to Soweto. And so I talked to my pastor after wedding if he could open a branch for me here in Soweto. But somehow he felt like, why do you go to that place? There's no money there, there's no offering, people are poor. Do you think you are going to make it there? So the pastor was not for it. But the more there was some resistance, the passion grew bigger and bigger, and I couldn't resist it anymore. At the same place, at the place of work, the Lord, I kept hearing that I've called you to serve me, I've called you to serve me. And one of the reasons that I had to resign was because the nature of our work was like, you have to work from Monday to Monday. Every day you go to work. There's no Sunday, there's nothing. Now that I was now becoming a pastor, there's no way I could hold the job. So come June 1998, I approached my pastor, my bishop, that asked him to release me to come and open a church in Soweto. Then he told me, okay, go, but you are on your own. That's the time I began trusting God and praying for a name. Then I read a book, and in that book I saw something like New Hope Gospel Fellowship. Then I said to myself, this is the name. So come July 1st, 1998, we launched a church in Soweto. It was not a very fancy launching because we had no money to rent a place. So we were just praying in an open sky. In fact, by then, my daughter, who is our firstborn, was born 1st July 1998. The same day we began the ministry. And because she was tiny, the mother could not come with her to the open sky where the sun was scorching, and it was not very easy. So Helen remained in my former church for some time until the church grew. The child grew that now she could come this way. So we began in open space with a few people, like 2 or 3. And the way of the church was, if you are to come to this church, you are to carry your own stool, because there's no place, there's no seating. So we went like that for some time, and as we kept praying, God gave us a small room, like 10 by 10, and we began growing there. We began growing, then we left that 10 by 10, we moved to a little bit a larger place. The grace of God was there. And so we continued, the church began doing so well. We began raising some leaders now. And it was good. But I believe also as a young man, the Lord was taking me through training. It wasn't so easy. Just as my former pastor discouraged me about the offering, sometimes I remember we could fuel the generator 150, but the offering would be 100 shillings. So, and from there, you don't know what to do. So, it became tough. I couldn't pay my rent. I couldn't pay the church rent. It was harassment everywhere. Sometimes I remember one day the church was locked, my house was locked, and I was summoned to go to the chief in Soweto And at the same time, the Kayole chief was also waiting for me. So I had to rush to Kayole so that I don't get arrested. The reason being, I was unable to pay my rent. I was unable to pay the church rent. And so come 2002, it became unbearable. The church, we had some debts, so the owner came, locked the church, and I think I got so tired, I had burnout. So I said to the few members, because the church began shrinking, with all these battles, the church was shrinking. And so I told the few members, I gathered some courage and I told my wife, I think we stop this thing now. So, so I told them, look for a place to go. I looked for a place to go, so we stopped the church services. The place was taken over by the owner. That was 2003. We had some church instruments, we kept them. The people were scattered into different places. Some were listening to me. I direct them to some pastors who could take them. So New Hope was no more. So we stayed like that for like 2 years, and the people went away. This scattered, this diaspora people now, they regathered themselves and they said, no, our pastor used to be a good one, and now I think we just need to get a place, pay, and go talk to him that we still want you. So that's what they did. It was early 2005. So they went, people like Isaac and the rest was afraid today. So they went, they took a small room somewhere along 88 in Soweto, a small room, they paid for it. And I remember that Saturday evening, I saw a group of people coming to my house, and I was wondering what the mission was. So they told me, we are paid for a place, we looked for some benches, so tomorrow prepare to come and preach. And somehow I felt like, oh. But then I prepared. Tomorrow I carried my Bible, and there I was. And New Hope began again. But God was with us, because the church began growing very fast. Within a short time, the small room was overcrowded, because now we were like 20 plus. And we started trusting God for a bigger place. At the same time, that's the time now I joined the Bible school. I joined the Bible school by the name Disciple Support Ministry. My lecturer was Paul Coley. It was sponsored. That's why I was able to join, because I didn't have money to join Bible school. So that was now in August. The same August, I got ordained as a reverend, 2005. And after this ordination and joining the Bible school, there was just a turnaround. The events just changed, and things began working. My wife got a job in Sitam, and life was just changing. We were able to pay that small house where we were. We were able to move to a little bit a bigger room, and God began working. So that from 2005, as we were trusting God for a bigger place, the hall where we were, where the lady took and now we had to stop, began looking for me. And so I went when she needed to talk to me, and I went. She was staying in Donholm. She told me, my son, just go back to the hall. And so we went back to the hall. That is 2005, like September. And the ministry began growing. Now I'm the Bible school, I was able to teach better, have a better way of leadership. The church was more structured now. And before I began, because now we're in the slums and children are there, you see they are hungry. I felt like we need to feed these children. So I talked to the church, if you could gather, some people could bring beans, some could bring rice, some could bring charcoal, so that at least every Saturday we make some meal for these children. And so I sold the vision to the church, to the congregation, and they began supporting. I remember one of our good supporters was Stephen Odhiambo, and it began well, but somehow along the way it stalled. But now that is 2005, we are now moving 2006, and things are moving. The Bible school, things are okay. And come 2009, we got some ladies from the New York who are looking for poor pastors in the slums that they could help, but they didn't know where to get them. So they met my director, and they told my director, we've come from New York, sent by David Wilkerson. We are looking for poor pastors in the slums. And this director of mine, because in the Bible school we were like 300 students, all from different slums of Nairobi. And so this director of mine, Paul, told them, you mean you are looking for poor pastors? And he told them that I have them, 300 of them. And one of them is called Edward Owino. So they booked for an interview. They picked like 6, and I was among the 6. So I was interviewed. I took my wife along with me, and so we were interviewed, and I got favor before these ladies. One of them was Bettina, the team leader. The other one was Swansea. And so Bettina loved what we were doing, by the fact that we were able to start feeding children, even though we were not able, even though we were poor, even though we were struggling. And so for the first time, she gave me $100. I remember that Saturday after immediately we did the interview, and our life was like, yeah. So then she asked for direction to come to Soweto the next day, that was on a Sunday. And mark you, we were in this hall, there's no toilet. So members come, children come, but there's no place to relieve yourself. And this is a church. Sometimes we would lose people because they come to service and they would ask for somewhere to relieve themselves, and we would just say, you can go like this. And some would go like that and they don't come back. Because it was funny that a church has no toilet, has no washroom. And that was life. So when Bettina came on a Sunday, and the same incident, she wanted to go to washroom, and she asked me, Edward, where is your washroom? And I told Bettina, we have no washroom. She said, you mean you don't have washroom? I told her, yes, we don't have one. So we had to look for a taxi for her to go all the way to Kayole, where I was staying, so that she could do her thing and come back. Then she had a burden. She asked me, if you were to make a toilet, where? And mark you, the place, the hall was rented. But I took courage as a man of God, and I went behind the wall, and I pinpointed a place that here. And that place was not mine. But I was believing God that God providing money will buy the place, make a toilet there. So Bettina told me when after that Sunday, that she'll go back and share with our director. And so she went back. Then I think in a month's time she sent some good money. We were able to buy the plot. I remember it was 20 by 10 feet. Then we did a modern toilet. But then those were the best toilets in Soweto now. Because you could flush, and it was beautiful. So then, now with the toilet, now I got more courage that now we can feed more children, and we can stay here for long, because we used to have short times in the church because there were no washrooms, so you can't keep people for a long time. So now the vision to help more children began growing more in me. And I remember at the same time, that the year 2009, I'd just gone through the Bible school. I was now teaching in the same Bible school, disciple support ministry. I became a teacher there. So I was teaching there, and I was doing the pastoral work. We began the feeding program. We began feeding 250 children. Every Saturday they would come, we'd feed them and teach them the word, because we realized that if we begin transforming these little children, then we have a bright future. And today I'm proud to say that most of them are today, some are ministers. One of them is Laban. And so it went well. Come 2010, some of these children would come to Bible school. They would come to learn on Saturday, and some were as old as 14 years, but they could not read and write. And I felt like at this age, a child cannot read a Bible on his own. And that gave me a push to think of a school, because, as you know, Soweto, by then and even now, there's no government public school. So I thought of, like, how about if I begin a school here, and we can gather all these children, and maybe at a small rate they're able to learn. Therefore, we began a school, New Hope Education Center. Then at the same time, my boss wasn't so much pleased with my projects. He felt like these projects would take most of my time, so I want to be very effective in teaching. So he asked me if I could resign from pastoral work and resign from running a school and all these small projects that we are running, so that I could just be a teacher there and do administration. But somehow I felt I was called to be a pastor. So he gave me option, either you resign or I sack you. So I chose the latter, so he sacked me. God called me to be a pastor. But now, I was being told to resign from pastoral work, and the resigning was serious, in that the day I'm resigning, my director would come. I have a letter of resignation that I'll read to the church and hand over also a copy to him. And it was serious, so I said, I would rather lose this job of teaching in the Bible school. And of course, I chose to do that. And so he told me, Edward, can't work with you. So it was so. It meant now I lost the pay. I was being paid twice in a month. You know, in American system, they pay people twice. So I lost the pay. But somehow there was joy in me. There was strength in me. I didn't feel like I'd lost something. But this man was a bit serious with me, in that he told me, anybody that you knew through me, because you have your tribes, forget about them, because they are my tribes. And of course, I developed some good link and relationship with my teachers. Some were from Australia, like David Leake. He taught me homiletics. And I happened to be the best student among 300 students. I became number one with a 100% mark. So it gave me favor before David. And therefore, I had David, I had Bettina, I had these people, I had Roger and Kathy. And so when my boss told me, forget about these people because they are my people. You have your people. I felt like losing these people would not be so good. And remember, Bettina had begun feeding the children. And I knew Bettina through my boss. So it was a battle, but God was on our side, on my side. It was not very easy, with lots of accusation and counter-accusations and so many things. Remember Bettina sending investigators to come and investigate, and he found that we were genuine, we were doing the right thing, and we deserved to be helped. We were accountable, we were transparent. We loved the Lord. We were not doing the work just for the sake of money, but now. So that was then 2010. Come 2010, because I was teaching the Bible school, the Lord told me, you are not teaching because of the pay. You are teaching because it is a call that I placed in you. It is a ministry in you. And when the Lord told me so, I prayed about it. I called some of my former colleagues in the Bible school, and I told them that we can begin a Bible school. And so we sat down. I remember we went to form a bomb blast. So we sat down, we talked. We came with the name of Systematic Bible Institute because we felt there are so many pastors. As much as there are many who are in Bible schools, we still felt there's a need to help pastors, especially from the slum areas, because they do not have money. They are foreign, some are not well educated, but they've been called and they deserve to be helped. So we began Systematic Bible Institute, training pastors so that they are sound in the Word of God, in their preaching, in their conduct. And so we began the Bible school, and the Bible school is still on up to date. So far we've graduated, we have overseen over 200 pastors graduate, with some with the diploma, some with the certificate, and the course is 2 to 3 years. The same year, 2010, we began the school, and the school has been running to date. We have produced some very, very good students. I remember the first national exam that we did here at New Hope Education Center was 2017, and we had a student scoring 417. That was really good, and we went to Kanga National School, and several of them went to national school. Just coming back to the school, I do because the Lord laid a burden of supporting the poor, the needy. In this school, we used to have 3 boys who their father was there, but the mother died. And so when the father died, sometimes like 2012, the father died. And these children, they were rejected where the father was, because it was like they don't belong to that family. And so they wanted to throw them away after the burial of the father. And when I noticed that, I had to write a letter to the chief and also to the family that give me these children. And I sent my pastor, that was Pastor Dixon, to go all the way to Migori. And he brought these 3 young boys. I took them, I gave them to a widow who had a heart for children, because I didn't envision this idea of having a children's home. So I kept them there to take care of this widow, to take care of these children. And today, these children and many more. We have Vincent who had 417 in KCP, and he did his KCSE, and he got 84 points, A straight, and he became number 28 nationally. The other boy, who is Hillary, is in Form 4 currently. Another one is Merrick, is in Form 2. And another one is in Class 8. So I've had all these children, helping so many children. So far, I'm overseeing 80 children in primary school that are coming. They are not paying. God has connected me to some few friends who are willing to help them. So they just come to school, they learn. I have over 40 children in secondary school who are learning in my name by God's grace. I was able to connect to a few friends here, local, and a few friends here and there. Some of the friends that I developed while I was in the Bible school that were able to stick around with me. So we are helping these children, 40 of them in high school as we speak, and 11 of them are joining university. One of them is Vincent, And Vincent, because of the high grade that he got, is privileged that he's going to, there's a scholarship that God gave us that is going to the US come next year to begin his university education in 2023. And besides that, coming back to a little bit of my education, 2010, I joined a degree class in a different school, Bible school called Faith International Theological Seminary, and I did the degree class for around 3 years. 2010, 11, and 12 I graduated. I also went to Bible League for leadership training. I've had some training like with the MAF Mission Aviation Fellowship, and currently I'm taking biblical studies in master's degree. And the reason why I do this is because as a leader that God has raised, I realize that I need more, because we keep feeding people, and I need more to help feed these people in terms of knowledge, in terms of the fear of God. And so that's my life. God has been very faithful in that not only are we helping children, but because we live in a society where we encounter poor mothers, some are widows, with so many challenges, I felt like we could help these mothers to start some small businesses. And so far, I have over 10 mothers that have initiated some small businesses for them. Some I've taken to college. Like I met a lady by the name Grace Mwendia. She was just in a bad state. We took her to college, catering. Took her children to New Hope here. And today this lady is not just working, she's a pastor here. She's in a Bible school. She's completely transformed. I look back and I say, to God be the glory. We have so many, like Regina Wanjiru, who is doing salon now. We have like Genevieve, who's a widow, and also they have some challenges. So there are several women that we are helping. We've kept on feeding children. Some we give food to take home. And we have seen the joy of God. We've seen the work expand. And we've seen people helped. Children would have not gone to school. People like Brace Mwangi. Today is just joining Kenyatta University. And when I picked him from class 4, he was not going to school. And in his family, it's almost the last born, but he's now the first person to step into a university simply because we've been there for them. Therefore, we've seen the hand of God, and we thank God. A little bit on the church. We are here in Soweto. I've traveled to African countries and beyond Africa because I have a passion that people should get saved. Pastors should be trained. Leaders should be trained. That's why I go to many countries to train leaders, to preach the gospel, to see people get saved. And because of that, I went to South Africa in 2015. And the Lord gave me more burden and some prophetic words, what I was going to do. And come 2019, I traveled to Malawi, I traveled to Zimbabwe, I traveled to Zambia, I traveled to Mozambique. And while I was there, the Lord told me, there's work here for you. And therefore, we opened one branch in Malawi, in southern Malawi, amongst very poor people. And one of the things that I realized that God being God is mysterious in that He always takes me to poor people. But I realized that's my calling. So I went to this place and the people, I remember sleeping outside because the people are so white, it's so hot. So we opened a church there. And today, New Hope is registered in Malawi under New Hope Gospel Fellowship International, and we have 16 branches with over 1,000 congregations. We also have 5 branches in Mozambique. We have a branch in Tanzania under Pastor Fred. Pastor Fred has been with us here, and we felt like we need to spread the good news to other nations, and therefore we began the church in Tanzania. Of course, I've gone to several countries to teach the word and to minister to pastors, and that's my passion. My passion is to see children being in school while being well fed, see pastors getting proper training, good morals, mentorship, which I do, not only just to Kenyan pastors, but I do it across, some as far as Europe, some in America, by God's grace. And therefore, I've enjoyed what I'm doing, and I love it. Not because of money, because really, I want to say since I began working for the Lord in 1998, I don't have like a church paying me salary. But God has been so faithful. God has been so good. He has given me some ideas. I do some business. Little there, little here. And out of these businesses, sometimes, like I remember, early this year, there was this cyclone in Malawi, and I sold half cages in Lake Victoria. I sold fish worth 300,000. I took 100,000, put into the air ticket, and I took 200,000. And I went in Malawi, bought food, bought clothing, beddings to pastors and to the community. And I enjoy doing what I'm doing. God has been so faithful. And looking to the future, my desire is to see a bigger Bible school, not only in Kenya, but in like places like in Malawi, because there the pastors are there, but with the little education, little knowledge about how to serve better, how to prepare, and I believe with proper training, Bible schools, some short courses, training for these pastors, they'll be able to do a better work. And therefore, I desire to see more work in the Bible school, more evangelism, trusting God for big tracts that we're able to cross nations to preach the gospel. Desire to see the school expanding so that we're able to help more needy children, because basically here in New Hope, we are basically helping because we have a good structure by God's grace, but we are charging so little simply because we desire to accommodate these children. If we were to charge what the school is worth, then we won't have these children here. But we are doing it for love for the children, not for monetary gain, because if it is monetary, we won't have been here. But the Lord has been so faithful, the Lord has been so good. That's my future desire to see, desire to venture into more business for the sake of ministry, because I believe our God is a wealth giver, and He is able. The Bible says that He gives us the ability to make wealth. And my purpose for the world is not just to be called a wealthy man, but that we are able to support mission work. Like I do travel, and all these travelings, whether be it in South America, where, I always foot my bills. But if, as the Lord blesses us, I'm able to work with a team, because I've been working alone, but you can't do much when you are just a single person working. I desire to have a team, and this team means money. Ministry needs money, and I'm trusting God as we work, as we get people to partner with us, as we get to do more business, that we're able to put this money into God's work, and all the glory returns to Him. To our partners, we've had wonderful partners, Janet and Mark Thonthwate from Australia. They came through my teacher David Lake. Being that I was the best student, he brought Janet and Mark came to visit, and so he told them that I have a pastor in Soweto, let's go see what they are doing. And so when they came, they felt like, oh, you're doing a good job, but things are so bad. So when they went back, I remember they collected 20,000 in the name of them wanting us to put a kitchen, because they found a very bad thing in the name of kitchen where we were cooking. And so I told them that 20,000 is good, but probably 40. So they sent the money to David. David gave me the math. I told David that if they can add another 20, 40, then we can do something. And thank God that Janet got a burden for this place. And through Janet, we've done great work. Through Mark and Janet, we have a building. So many children are being helped. And still, we need men and women who have a burden for poor children, who will be able to sponsor. So many children are not in school, even here in Soweto. You walk around during school time, children are at home. The reason being, they can't afford it. So if you could get more people willing to sponsor a child at only 6,000 shillings in a term, so I tell you, we'll have more children. And it will be my joy to see children join school, and the men in school go to high school, go to technical schools, and become people that can earn a living by them working, doing business, and being people that have some influence in our society. And that is why my vision of changing the lives of Soweto. Soweto is not just a name. Soweto has people, and these people are people that we can give hope in the name of New Hope. When we educate them, when we do them training, we find people who are willing to support these mothers, who are willing to support these widows, then we are going to have a big, big impact. And we shall leave this world better than the way we found it. We may not help everybody. We may not stand with everybody. But at least a few will have that impact. And it will bring glory to God. Thank you for those who will be willing to support and help. I'm always happy and with open heart and open mind and open hand to receive. And we are always accountable, and children are becoming better and better and better. God bless you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.